Are there any other senators in the chamber wishing to vote or to change their vote? If not, the yeas are 57, the nays are 42. The nomination is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action. Under the previous order, the Senate will resume consideration of the following nomination, which the clerk will report.
On the same day that Dr. Ronny Jackson withdrew his nomination for VA Secretary, the U.S. Senate confirmed CIA Director Mike Pompeo as the nation's newest Secretary of State. Pompeo's confirmation comes at a crucial time on the international stage, with the Trump administration finalizing details for a possible meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Pompeo himself has already met with Kim. The White House released these photos Thursday from their meeting. CBS News State Department reporter Kylie Atwood is in Washington. So, Kylie, what kind of role will Mike Pompeo play moving forward when it comes to U.S. North Korea talks?
Well, pretty much everyone is indicating that Pompeo is going to maintain the North Korea portfolio, meaning that even though he went over and met with Kim Jong-un when he had on his hat as director of the CIA, now that he's the incoming Secretary of State, he will maintain the primary leadership for the U.S. government in the U.S. North Korea capacity. And that means that he's going to be the one laying the foundation for the possible planned North Korea U.S. summit between Trump and Kim Jong-un, which we're expecting to have at some point in late May or early June. And, indications that he will maintain this portfolio come from many sources. That's his allies who have talked to Pompeo as he's gone through the confirmation process to become Secretary of State. It's also members of Congress who believe that he will maintain this portfolio, and it's the White House itself. As you said earlier, they tweeted just this afternoon photos of Pompeo meeting with Kim Jong-un, which indicates that, yes, he's going to be the one leading these negotiations that are leading up to the Trump-Kim Jong-un summit.
Well, how different is his role than that of fired Secretary of State Rex Tillerson?
Well, from, a 90,000-mile view, it's very different because, Pompeo has now met with Kim Jong-un. But if you look at the history here, of what's happened over the past year or so, it was really the State Department and Secretary Tillerson that laid the foundation for this meeting, this Trump and Kim Jong-un summit, to even become possible. And I say that because it was a State Department envoy who went over to North Korea at the beginning of last year to retrieve Otto Warmbier, who was the college student who had been held there and sadly came back and died shortly thereafter. But that was the first foray into opening some kind of communication between the U.S. and North Korea. And the State Department maintained open channels of communication between the U.S. and North Korea. And Tillerson was a continued advocate for making sure that diplomacy was the top option here. There were some other members of the National Security Council that wanted a more militaristic option when looking at North Korea. Tillerson pushed for diplomacy. Now Pompeo is going to be the one to pick that up and run with it along with President Trump.
Well, Pompeo was confirmed by a bigger margin than Tillerson was. How are people within the State Department receiving him so far?
Which was shocking, quite frankly. Everyone thought that Pompeo may not even get confirmed, and then he now had 57 senators who actually supported him. And what Pompeo did was he actually courted Democrats who were from red states. Those are states that supported Trump in the 2016 presidential election, and basically said, it's not going to be good politics for you if you don't support the nominee for Secretary of State if you have elections coming up, because there are going to be some Republican voters that you're going to need. And so he was able to get Democratic support even in those states that were red states. And I also think that that was a shock factor for the State Department. But the State Department's excited about Pompeo coming in because he is committed time and time again to revitalizing the department. And so they're waiting to see what he actually does.
Well, how does Secretary Pompeo transition into his new role? What's first on his to-do list?
Right. So as I mentioned, revitalizing that department is top of the agenda. And I've talked to some Pompeo allies who tell me that in his first 10 days on the job, he's going to have a town hall and he's going to listen to the State Department employees. He's also going to have one-on-one meetings with Foreign Service officers to make them feel that their work is really valued and put to use by the Trump administration. Another thing that Pompeo is going to be focused on, obviously, is North Korea. And then we have Iran. There's going to need to be a decision made by the Trump and the administration about what to do with the Iran deal on May 12th. And so that's a really, really close deadline that Pompeo is going to have to focus on. And if the U.S. leaves, he's going to be the one leading the diplomatic negotiations with Europeans to try and ease the pain that they feel after the U.S. leaves that deal.
Well, Secretary Pompeo left for his first official trip as the nation's top diplomat on Thursday. What will he be doing?
Right, so Pompeo's headed over to Brussels for a NATO ministerial meeting. He's going to be meeting with all the ministers from NATO. And one of the things that they'll discuss is actually Iran. But he's also extended the trip. And just today, we found out that he's going to be going to Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Jordan. And those are three allies in the region. And I think it's important that he's stopping in those because over the past few weeks, what we've been focused on is Pompeo's meetings with North Korea, which is obviously not viewed as a U.S. ally. So he wants to ferment the U.S. relations between the State Department and U.S. allies. It's also pretty noteworthy that he's put Israel on that list because that's viewed as a place that sort of fell under Kushner's portfolio. And so Pompeo is making a statement here saying, listen, Kushner may be the one who's been leading diplomacy between the U.S. and Israel and Palestine, but I'm Secretary of State and I'm going to go there, make myself known, and become an integral player in the Middle East peace process as well.
Coming in at a time when geopolitical stakes could not be higher. Kylie Atwood in Washington. Kylie, thank you.
Thanks, Elaine.